Good morning again, and I'm happy to, well, happy is a big word, but to open up the day 2 session of here in Cascais, and we'll have some very interesting things to discuss. And but we'll first give the floor to each of my senior panelists, which I'm very honored to have here this morning, this early, and they will introduce themselves, and then we'll go into a keynote presentation from Ren, from Rui. So we'll be very happy to listen to that, and then we'll go into the panel discussion. So I need you to join us as well. Not on stage, not all of them, but let's hope we can keep it interactive and come up with your questions if you have some. We're more than happy to answer those. So having said that, Alessandro, if I may ask you.
Good morning, bon dia. Good morning, everyone. Alessandro Forcina. I am a partner at Cambridge Management Consulting. As my colleague said yesterday, we are nearly 200 consultants worldwide with a presence in 22 countries. I have a quite long experience in the telecom industry, exceeding 30 years, spending more than my career in the Telecom Italia Group, domestic and international, GSMA, a German company. And that's all.
Good morning, everyone. Mohamed Ibrahim from Interfiber. And we have several companies. So we have Interfiber in the UK and in Portugal. And we have United in DRC and Evolution in Ivory Coast. And we're expanding in Africa. What we do is we sell internet IP transit. We are an IP transit provider. We sell connectivity to our own companies, which redistribute the connection in Africa. And we have as well internet exchange now that we're building with TechX.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Luís Cunha. I work in Altice Portugal for the last 34 years. I'm currently responsible for managing all the transmission network of the company, which include also the submarine cable network. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Luis Carver. 2 hats, or in 3 hats. Afrix Telecom, supply of data services into Africa, over our 60 POPs on the continent, our 12 operating licenses, and secondly, or thirdly, the Barcelona cable landing station where we land Medusa to Africa, and various other cables are coming in into our data center, which is again an open data center. Pass on.
Bom dia. Good morning. I'm Rui Franco, head of Ren Telecom. I'll tell you a few words about our company. So I just introduced myself. I've been in wholesale for 34 years, right, Luis? We've been colleagues, mates at the university. So it's been my life. It's a pleasure to be here with you and discuss interconnectivity. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may invite you to go for your presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, you see we are here with dinosaurs from the industry, right? As in like 30, 32, 30. No, you're not. To only 20. Shh, don't tell them anything. 34, 12, right? Luis, for you, 12. Okay. So anyway, thank you guys. Again, honored having you here on stage with me. And if I may invite you for your presentation.
So I'm here to talk about the role in this scope of interconnectivity, the role of utility-based telcos, which is the case of Ren Telecom, as you know. So companies that belong to utilities that have always had a very important role in unleashing market opportunities, and that I think will have a new renewed role as we see the market expanding. Okay. So in Portugal, we have in fact connectivity booming with all new data centers and submarine cables. So I just prepared some small briefing here. You can see this is some data we collected from market and public data. You can see that data centers in Europe, this is a power is growing will be growing in the next 5 years at an average rate of 8%. But below you see, I don't know if you see, but the lighter colors are Portugal and Spain, which of course will be growing at higher speeds because these are less developed markets. We are all, I think, aware of the problems that the FLAP-D markets, so Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris, Dublin, are facing now with some scarcity on the electrical networks. And this is bringing attention to second-tier markets like Portugal and Spain, which is a great opportunity. In particular, and I would like to highlight, in particular for Portugal, which has always had very good connectivity. We were one of the first countries to have submarine cables connectivity to all continents. We still have, I will detail this, significant connectivity to all continents with new systems coming in. And also, I would like to highlight that the Portuguese market is very interesting in terms of energy, which is fundamental for data centers, because we do have a very high percentage of renewable energy sources. We started with wind. That was the first wave. We know that quite well because at REN we let's say accommodate those electricity producers in our transport network, and now we are facing the wave of solar, which is really quite significant, and this creates conditions for very low cost, sustainable energy. Okay. Also, the country is very low risk for in terms of climate, very safe and secure country, and there's a lot of skilled manpower in Portugal. So all of this makes the country quite interesting. We have here. Let me just try to. I cannot stay here. Can you hear me? No, not working. Okay, it's okay. Let me just walk around. It's best for me. You see here. I cannot do this. Okay. These are some of the pipeline for data centers that we see in the market. This is based on public data and some studies. So what we see here is an impressive growth from the existing 36 megawatts currently to 20 times these in 2, 3, 4 years. Of course, the biggest projects here are the Start Campus project, which is planned to go up to 495 megawatts in the Sines area. And then you have Merlin planned in the north of Lisbon to go to 100 megawatts. I would also highlight the Atlas Edge project, which is launching the first stone today in also near Lisbon, with the concept of edge data center, so smaller power, but also quite significant, 5 megawatts, 15 megawatts, and others which are announced. And I understand much more to come. So it's not, let's say, possible to name them yet, but all these conditions, the ecosystem of cables, the ecosystem of terrestrial connectivity, and the energy grid, the conditions of the energy grid make the market indeed very attractive. So coming to submarine cables, I still remember José Barros, the old maps in paper from telegeography. We had them hanging on the wall at Marconi a few years ago, 30 years ago. Now you have digital version. This is what you see here. You can find it on the internet. It's very easy. But this gives you a great view of how Portugal is indeed a gateway to Europe, Africa, Americas, and Asia. There are lots of systems there. I will detail them a little bit in the next slides. But this, in fact, is a tremendous, very important gateway for Africa, Asia, South America. So here I give you some details. I will just comment briefly of the existing systems. So the newest ones, of course, New Africa, which has just landed a month ago in Carcavelos. It's the longest cable system in the world, which goes around Africa and goes to even to Asia. Okay. Then this was promoted by Meta, system promoted by Meta. Then the system promoted by Google, it's Equiano, which landed in Portugal in 2023. And of course, a special reference to Ela-Link, which connects Portugal to South America and Brazil, with a lot of branching units along the way to African countries like Cape Verde, even Madeira, our islands in Madeira. by Link, and then you start seeing here some let's say older PTT cables with not so much fibers transmission capability, but still very interesting. A lot of systems connecting to Africa like WAX, ACE. The main one, curious to point out that main one connects Portugal to Africa, and it was recently acquired by Equinix, showing that how a data center, huge data center player, is really caring about also the submarine cables connectivity. And then older ones, and I still remember putting this one in service. Columbus, this is a branch, a domestic branch of a previous international system. Okay, and then the coming ones, the announced coming ones. So you have Medusa, and Luis will be talking about that better than me. Okay, so this is announced 2025. Then you have the moving cable from Google connecting Portugal, Bermudas, to Bermudas and the USA. Okay, very important system. And the Pisces system also already announced, ongoing. The work's ongoing for 2026, late 2026, which will connect Ireland to Portugal, Spain, and I should add France here also, and others to come. So there are talks about and rumors about other systems. So the snowball is increasing. And then a reference also to existing domestic systems, like what we call the CAM, Continente Açores Madeira, the mainland Açores Madeira connection, which will be replaced by a new one in 2026. And the Olisipo, also from Link, which connects Sines to Lisbon. So this to give you a brief overview of the market in Portugal. And now just a few words of how we think we can help. So as you have understood, Ren Telecom is part of an energy group. What you see here in blue is the electricity concessions. Group does the transport, and then the gas concessions. And these provide us the possibility to offer this kind of services. The first two ones, dark fiber and data centers, I already mentioned. I think are important, very important leverages to help developing the country, to not only to national providers, but of course to international providers. Some detail on the dark fiber. So this is the largest and most stable neutral backbone in Portugal. We have almost 8,000 kilometers of optical fiber cables, and these are split between the electrical grid, which is much more meshed. I'll give some more detail here in the next slide, and the gas grid. And we have a record number of 7 interconnections to Spain. Most of them are already being used so a significant part of the internet in Portugal goes through our fibers, which you can see when you drive the highway. It's the ones hanging on the towers. So here some detail with the electrical grid. So as you see here, this is the what we call the optical ground wire cables hanging there, and these are very high, like 40 meters high. So they are immune to fires, and this electrical network optical electrical network allows 5 interconnections to Spain. We are now undergoing a process of expanding this network to improve the connections. And this is the gas network, which provides 2 connections in Spain, in the north here. This is all buried, and also to Sines. So I would say we cover everything. We are now expanding this network to make it the brand new, the best backbone in Portugal, to have many hundreds or even thousands of fibers available in certain stretches. So we think this mix of the electrical grid and the gas grid allows for a great mix for latency, scalability, resilience, and of course many interconnectivity options. Okay. So in the data center, which is another important part of our business, we have 2 data centers in the north of Portugal, which are the ones showing here. We are currently expanding these data centers, and we hope to be announcing a new data center to Lisbon soon, in the next few days or weeks. Okay, and we are looking for other business, so we are open to business, and we are very pragmatic. We just look for the opportunities to create value. Okay, What I mean by this is that we have access to land, we have access to power, and we have access to fiber. So we can make this available to partners, and we are, let's say, quite open about the business models that we may be agreeing with these partners. So in a nutshell, this is it. I think our digital platforms may be a great contribution to help unleash the market opportunities. And with this, I end. Thank you very much.
How it works. If we have a question, any questions for Louis? Was it so clear? It was so clear. You have a question, please. Please take the microphone.
So the opportunities are only for Portugal or outside Portugal?
Opportunities we look for? Mostly Portugal. So the opportunities we are aiming are mostly in Portugal, but of course we are part of Iberia, so we do not disregard those possibilities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bonjour. So
I have a question, please. Hello?
Sorry, yes, please. Oh, apologies.
So it's for Rui for why you don't do a special prices for power supply, for example, for data centers, because we need to be competitor with regarding Spain and regarding not. Why you not do? Because one of the problems with data centers is the power supply consumption. So to be competitive, why you not prepare a special prices for this?
Very important. Yeah. That's a very, very important question. But the answer, unfortunately, is easy. I didn't explain that, but the electrical system is unbundled between production, transport and distribution, and the commercial part. Okay, so this is all over like this in Europe and in most of the, let's say, Western world. Okay, this means that we are not allowed to sell electricity. We just transport electricity. So yeah, we have to be very electricity and gas, of course. But with what concerns electricity, we have to be just very efficient in the way we build and operate the transmission network. But the price, this is a small component of the price that we all pay and the companies pay for electricity. Okay, so we cannot, let's say, change the price. We cannot even supply electricity or sell electricity directly to our consumers. But we can provide access to the grid, which is also very, very important, as you know. So it's not easy to find, let's say, power holes in an electrical grid where you can put something like 500 megawatts or even 100 megawatts. Okay, so we try to facilitate in that regard, but not in the price. I hope I replied your question.
Okay, thank you. Let's move in. Alessandro, if I may ask you on I mean, we're talking about navigating the interconnectivity now and in the future and you know, the choices and standards we have. As you know, identifying the trends and the factors that influencing the current connectivity in the market in the region to meet the demand. I mean, what can you share with us about this?
Thank you, Eric. I'd like to start outlining a factor that we consider for granted. We are working in an industry which reports double-digit increase every year. This is not for granted. Look at what happened to the voice. Just for giving you a figure, at a carrier community event in Rome last September, a Sparkle officer reported that on the average every year, they have to manage a traffic increase in the range of 42%. I suppose this figure can be shared by, I'm just reporting, can be shared by a lot of equivalent wholesaler. So in facing this increasing traffic, as Eric requested, the trends. First of all, of course, new capacity. Rui gave us a picture of what's happening in Portugal in this region. Last week, 10 days ago, Google announced an investment equal to 1 billion for 2 additional cables in the Pacific, Proa and Tahei. I am based in Italy, and you know that the Blue Raman is coming from Genova down to southeast, and there are other cables in the Mediterranean. So the first trend is new cables, the new cables. How? From the technological development we used when I was part of Telecom Italia, we used to have the 100 gigabit as the building block, the main building block of the wholesaler. Colt announced 800 gigabit transmission equipment. So this means that at a commercial level, the 100 gigabit can become the 400 gigabit. From the service perspective, the open cable is a reality. I think it's in the interest of the whole industry to try to exploit as much as possible this concept together with the data center proximity as outlined yesterday. And then there is the role of the hyperscaler. In general, in the telecom industry, we can report a sort of competition, but at a connectivity level, a wholesaler, I have to say that as already explained, the hyperscaler, Google, Meta, Microsoft, they are a push for enlarging the platform, enlarging the capability. So I mentioned till now 4 traditional trends. Let me add 2 new trends. One is the geopolitical situation. The world has been changed. I was surprised. As I said, I have a quite long experience in the telecom world, but for the first time in 2022, I saw officer of the Italian Navy attending a conference, a telecommunication conference. I was surprised to read an Italian public newspaper, not Spears, that one of the main tasks of the Italian Navy is to protect the submarine cables. And I assume the same is for all the other European navies. So the geopolitical scenario has been changed, and this for sure impacts our industry. The second one is artificial intelligence. For the big public, artificial intelligence was born on November the 30th, 2022, when the OpenAI announced the ChatGPT-3 for the public, for the general audience. Now, artificial intelligence is in everything. It's a buzzword, but I do hope and that for sure, coming to the real stuff, AI can support our industry for planning, for customer care, and for network management. So I gave you 4 traditional, let me say, trends plus 2 depending on these years. One is negative. The other one is, I hope it will become positive.
Okay, thank you. Mohammed?
Normally, he covered all the... So just to say that, yeah, from perspective, geopolitics today is forcing most of the operators to have more redundancy, to have resilience, because believe it or not, we're having a lot of cuts that doesn't make sense. And because of that, we are doubling capacity. It's costing us the double and even triple, but the clients want it cheaper. So we have a very big challenge nowadays is that the price of competition is going down, but the cost of operation is going up. So that's a very big problem. So to do that, we are relying on AI to reduce our costs. So in our case, for example, we're using AI in decision-making on network device. So not only in management, but as well, it chooses better paths, better or lower latency, packet loss and all, and it rechange. And that's actually the reason why we're able today to attend this meeting, because there is AI doing our job. And we see the trend and we are jumping on it, and we of course developing solution for that. Normally, there is the most important today. What we see is that there is enough cables coming in Europe, but there isn't enough going to Africa, and all our capacity coming are only coastal, so we don't have as well terrestrial cable. So one of the things that I think they should start looking into is terrestrial backups. So, for example, we see that today with the Red Sea cable cut, they're now looking for alternatives on land. So as well, Africa have, can be a redundant path for this kind of resilience. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you a long story about at the Red Sea, how long they're talking about, and even building some parts of already the terrestrial part of to have that covered, but it remains very, very difficult. As a telco operator, Luis, where do you see the trends? What do you see around you?
Well, Alessandro touched most of the hot topics of the current situation. And he talked about the investments, or the huge investments the major Googles and Metas are making on these networks, on these submarine cables. And what we see is that the traffic is growing at 2 digits almost every year. But for the normal telco operators, the revenues, the incomes are not increasing. So there is a issue that has to be taken into account, because the operational costs are raising up, but the revenues are not increasing in the same manner. So it is always an issue we have to take into account. Regarding all these connectivity issues, I think what we are currently looking at the political situation and what is happening worldwide, we have to focus definitely on diversity and resilience. What we are facing now, for instance, with the cables that are cut near Abidjan, which, by the way, we are currently with Altice has people on board repairing the systems. The SAT is already underway. ACE is already done. We are finishing works by, let's hope, by this week or something like that. We are having there was some difficulties in the canyon, but we are working hard to recover all the cables. And I think the key issue is assure a resilience network, and that was a very interesting thing regarding the terrestrial as also a possibility to secure this kind of traffic. And but that's definitely the diversity, different cables, different data centers. And also here in Portugal, we have several data centers, and we have a new one from Altice in Navelha, which had some major opportunity to add some security for when these cables cut in Africa. But I think that those are the main issues. The operators and all the customers must rely on trying to diverse and to have a more resilience network, and to have several sources of traffic and sources of interconnecting. I think that's one of the major challenges. We as operators and operating a submarine cable network, we have to take into account, considering that most of the investments now are made by the big players, not by the telecom operators as it used to be in the past in the consortium.
The big players, they have a different business model.
Yeah.
They have a completely different business model. And they don't care if it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 12 billion. And the money is there. So they start building, and you know what? And then they're not going to use us anymore because they have their own thing. Yeah. So we need to consider
that's an issue. And I think even the regulators and even the European Union has to think about it, because if we
they should have, sorry to interrupt, they should have decided already. Yeah. We're already late.
It's taking too long, and maybe by the time they decide,
It's done.
market is already.
It's done already.
Yeah.
And we saw it over and over and over again. But again, we don't learn in Europe. That's a different story. Now let's move a little bit to Africa, Luis. I mean, what do you see? I mean, are those guys only talking about luxury problems? Because
Well, I'm going to add some problems too.
yeah, there you go. Come on.
As I mentioned, guys, that my the Afrix network is obviously based in Africa, essentially. So we can also imagine the disruptions that happened with the cables cut in both east and west of the continent of Africa. The fact that each time that we put a POP into a particular country, we have to obviously look beyond the security side of things and resilience. We have some of the problems I think also been mentioned here today are the geopolitical, and you can imagine some of the countries that we work in, how sensitive and how we must be very, very careful the way that we operate in some of these countries. Funnily enough, we have licenses in Burkina, Mali, all the fantastic countries you guys need to visit, by the way, because we have customer requirements in these countries. So we go there, and we know that there's little competition as well, so we can maintain a pretty relative comfortable margin. But again, as I said, it's a question of going out there and making sure that not only the customer is well satisfied and is connected, but you need to obviously worry about resilience. Well, the cable cuts going down into Africa, we must also take into consideration that some countries, Mauritania, Liberia, Sierra Leone, are funneled with only one fiber. So you can imagine when that goes down, what happens to the entire country and the communication services in these countries. And then again, as I said, we need to worry about how we then ensure that these POPs that we have in place are resilient and redundant. So just mention the political side of things, the infrastructure side of things. And each time that we actually go into a particular country, then we obviously need to think about not upsetting, obviously, local competition, because our friends, the Africans, are very sensitive about people entering the countries and so on and so on. But saying that, we have managed also to acquire, today we have 12 licenses operating in Africa, which means also then we have people on the ground there. And so in the event of any sort of customer support problems, we have guys to intervene. That's the African side of things. And again, so just one final thing also to talk about our network in Africa. Looking again at resilience, so what we did, luckily now we have some fibers going across from West Africa into Latin America. Then from then on, we go up north to America, North America, and across back to Europe again. It's added latency, but still the network is running. And despite the fact that we use all these cables that were actually down on both sides of the continent. Quick mention of Medusa. Thank you, Rui, to having mentioned it. I should have mentioned it before. The deployment of Medusa is looking well into the actual deployment of the network and the fibers. We have now secured the construction and also the delivery into the 5 North African countries. I can assure you it's not easy to negotiate with Libyans and Algerians and so on and so on and so on, just to name a few. But anyway, we've got there. The actual idea to deploy Medusa came around, I would say, about 5 years ago. So we've made some headways, I think a tremendous headway, to actually make the project become a reality. The legalities of the funding, the engineering, and so on and so on. Well, you guys don't really know what these entails. Also landing Medusa, first of all, is our home base in Barcelona. We had the pleasure then, and obviously the blessing of the municipalities to give us I would say free car, but at least easy of access to deploy and to create our landing station and our data center in Barcelona. We're looking now into 2025 to land Medusa on the west side of the Mediterranean. So we begin from, say, Portugal, working eastwards, the line up to Sicily and Tunisia, 2025, and then beyond 2026, right up to Egypt. We are still looking at some certain points that we had not, I wouldn't say thought about, but at least the fact that the Medusa project has created a lot of synergies and interest that other sort of operators and customers have come forward to us and said, well, perhaps we'd like to get a piece of your fiber system. In a nutshell, we are growing. We're happy to deliver into Africa. We're happy to make Medusa a success. And thank you all for taking my time to listen to me.
Thank you so much. Rui, coming to you, I mean, today as well, and also in the other sessions from yesterday, we discussed and tipped on the key challenges we have and the players actually have, given the capacity shortage there is. On the other hand, what you just mentioned is that capacity will be improved. I mean, there will be improved capacity, so more capacity is coming. People are investing in it, as well as the competition and the resilience. But from your point of view, are the main opportunities we can get out of there?
The main opportunities for
having out of the improved capacity, which is there and coming.
There is, I think, a snowball effect. So all these systems, they potentiate each other's, right? So, and this also includes in the ecosystem the data centers. Okay, so I think the new systems will be potentiating data centers, and new data centers will also potentiate the new cables, and of course the terrestrial networks, which are very important because these things have to interconnect, have to go somewhere, right? And that's where I think companies like us, and not only us, but can play a very important role. But again, I would like to say that regarding opportunities, Eric, we've spoken about the issue of the hyperscalers becoming dominant because they dominate the internet traffic. So more and more they will take over the opportunities either on the business side, and they keep growing not only in B2C but also in B2B. Okay, so they will have the conditions to seize more and more opportunities
because they have all those customers already in their pockets.
Yes, right? Sure. So and I showed you some cables, some let's say older cables were done by the PTTs, the old telcos. Nowadays you have almost none, right? So companies like Afrix or LL-Link are kind of heroes for me because they still manage to develop.
Very brave.
Still manage to develop and to seize and create opportunities. You talked about 5 years since the inception of the idea. LL-Link was 10 since the inception of the idea. So it's a long way to gather these opportunities. But I would like just to stress again that the EU worried a lot about regulating national markets. I think maybe even too much because the markets are too small, too fragmented, and didn't care or didn't watch for this phenomenon. So nowadays, I think the hyperscalers, they have what in regulation is called a dominant position, which means they can not only seize the deals, but also act on the cost side and put a lot of pressure on the telcos. So maybe they allow the telcos to enter some of their submarine cable systems. They are building it. The same for data centers. So they are building their own data centers, of course, to take over the whole ecosystem. And also they are, on what concerns my company, they are also taking over the terrestrial networks. That's the next step. They will be doing that because it's fundamental to have the right backhaul to the submarine cables, the right connections to the data centers. And we are talking about, between data centers, about thousands of fiber pairs. Okay, so it's really, really very, very significant. And I think we should all worry a little bit about this. I hope there will be more Medusas and more LL-Links and more companies like ours, and the telcos survive all of this.
Yeah, but they're becoming less and less and less and less, right? I mean, Alessandro, what do you think? What could be the answer? Do we have an answer? Can we answer?
I have a lot of answers. First of all, when just for your information, when we a lot of times the EU and the competition and the EU rules has been mentioned a few minutes ago. Maybe because last 10 days ago, Enrico Letta, a former Italian prime minister, presented to the Commission what has been requested by Ursula von der Leyen on the status of competition in EU. And it was largely covered by the Italian newspaper. And he said that for the telecom, it's a dramatic situation because it's fragmented. So, and notwithstanding, Madame Vestager, the EU commissioner, she replied that she doesn't see a lot of, let's say, she doesn't support the positive outcome of consolidation. Let's put it this way. She's not fully convinced of the positive outcome of consolidation in Europe in terms of number of carriers. This is from EU side, Mr. Nicoletta reports. In terms of challenges and opportunities, I'd like to go up from a transmission and going up to the service layer. To the service layer, I've been a customer. When I was in Telecom Italia, I was the customer. And let me say that the level of service provided by all wholesaler was largely very, very poor. Very, very poor. And this means the question of network automation, and network automation means API. And API means which API? I can list. There is the traditional TMM forum or the ODA architecture. There is the MEF, which is a private. And the MEF are oriented not to increase the revenues, but to gain efficiency. So are for you. And then there are the GSMA API, the Open Gateway Initiative, in close collaboration with Camara, and Camara belongs to the Linux Foundation. And then there are the, by the way, in order to be fair, GSMA says that they work on the basis of Camara, and Camara says that they work in collaboration with GSMA. And then, in order to be fair, and then there are the vendors. A company called Ericsson paid $6.2 billion for Vonage for the APIs for a number of reasons, including the Vonage expertise on APIs. And then there is something called Microsoft and Nokia. So there are opportunities, there are a lot of challenges at a service layer. Let me say, it's the second time, but what I have seen as a customer is very disappointing.
So we need to improve.
Definitely.
Just a little bit.
I have to say, so I am not a fan, so I played a lot in the official organization. I'm not a fan of the private organization, but I have to say that MEF succeeded with Ethernet. And this is our responsibility because it's a fully private organization succeeded with the Ethernet. I don't know whether they will be successful with the NAS, that concept of NAS. But an wholesaler like you have to consider network automation as a priority.
All right. Let's do a quick round, and maybe, Mohammed, if you want to start. Looking at the future, scoping it a little bit. Your glass ball predictions. What can we expect? Well, I mean, we know we have a huge amount of challenges. There are opportunities. We're working on it. We're investing in it. But what do you see for the near future to come?
First, I think that the future is not in Europe or the developed countries. I think it's in the underdeveloped countries because most of the market is saturated in Europe, and that's the reason why we operate from Europe, but not in Europe. Like Luis said, fortune favors the brave. So you need to be brave in this kind of new markets, and only the people that are there are able to have new kind of margin. Because already, first, the internet price in Africa, for example, is extremely high. One of the problems we have is that several countries, including very big countries, have only one cable. And that's the reason, and most of Africa is not interconnected. So, for example, someone in Tanzania sending an email to someone in Congo-Brazzaville, it does the whole turn. It goes to Europe and then go on the other side, or from South Africa now because of the NAP Africa. So that's the reason why we're building one of the biggest internet exchange with DECIX. We call it ASIX. It's Africa Congo Internet Exchange, where we will use the 9 bordering countries to Congo, which 10 borders because of Cabinda, to connect, to interconnect actually Africa in a terrestrial way, where we will rely much less on wet connectivity and on submarine cables. And in the same time, we will be able to have redundancy from east to west and west to east and north to south as well.
Plus, immediately, sorry to interrupt you, but also to make sure that the landlocked countries,
correct,
you connect the unconnected as well.
Sure, but like Central Africa is landlocked. As well, the idea is to bring all the CDN and to reduce latency and to decentralize, because today a country like DRC have over 100 million population. The internet penetration is extremely low, like less than 3%. They say that it's like, but we see the numbers on the ground, it's not even 4%. Broadband connectivity is not even 0.001%, because we know that we are the biggest operator in Kinshasa, and we know that we don't have that much clients. So it's easy to make the numbers. The other thing is that we need to create a new type of content or to be less dependent on hyperscalers and on these dominant markets, because in some, like in China, in other, in CIS region, they have their own search engine, they have their own social networks. Us in Europe, we kind of in a digital dark age. We don't have our own.
We overslept that as well.
Yeah.
We did it again.
So I think that the future is to concentrate and to build a more European products, more, like something local to be able to serve to the European and rely less on existing. And by that, we will rely less on submarine cables as well, because we will be able to consume something local, not to import something from the outside.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe the Data Act can help us there a little bit. Luis, what are your predictions?
Yeah, the predictions are easy to make, possibly difficult to achieve. The pressure on the telcos will continue, as I mentioned in my previous speech. We will have to see what can be done, what must be done in terms of the business model of the normal telcos in order to try to optimize processes, optimize all the management and the operation costs in order to be able to have margins that are appealing to the company itself. I don't think it will be very easy to have those alternatives in terms of the hyperscales, because they are so into the market that it's not very easy to make changes over there. What we can do as operators and what we must do in the future is to ensure that there is enough interconnectivity. We need to make sure that all the networks are able to transport all the capacity that is required, with diversity, with security, with resilience. And for instance, talking about Portugal, when we see the market and the geographical situation, for instance, for now we have all of the the cable stations are on the south of the country. Maybe we should try to make something on the north of the country to add additional security. We are already thinking about it. It would be a good idea to have also some submarine cable stations in the north part of the country. We are working on it, studying it, maybe trying to, together with these new cables, try to figure out a way to increase this diversity, which could help also the connectivity to other data centers, which are also located in the north of the country. And then there is issues like the automation, the artificial intelligence, the smart cables are over there, and that could be also another area of business for not only for the telco but for the main investors in submarine cables. So yeah, there are a lot of new challenges for the future, and but it won't be an easy task, okay? Because the economics of it are dominated by others rather than the telco companies.
Okay, thank you. Luis? What can we expect from you?
Where we are lucky, I guess, working in Africa is that everything needs to be done. Everything is yet to be done. We are seeing growth in data centers, and which is obviously a good place to interconnect, because some of the incumbents do charge us extraordinarily high prices for cross connects at the landing stations. So the fact that effectively these data centers are popping up all over the places, which is again, as I said, a good thing for operators like ourselves. Peering, peering points are also building all over the continent. I think we peer something like 5 or 6 at peering points within the continent. That's growing as well. So from that perspective, again, it's being built, and there's still a lot of future, I think, for us in that path. Again, now we need to look at crossing Africa in the sense of bringing the resilience from east to west. We do have a path today, actually, going from the Red Sea, crossing 3 countries, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Cameroon. So at least we can cross east to west. It cuts down on the latency, but also then gives us that added resilience that we've been all talking about. So in the end, yeah, I'm quite happy and comfortable working in Africa. It's challenging. We do, again, as I've mentioned, and I won't stop mentioning, that it's not an easy place to do business. But I think once you get your head into it and you navigate through some of the obstacles and hurdles of the continent, I think there's lots to be done and lots to be made out of it.
Okay, thank you. Last famous words, Rui.
Well, my words would be from the perspective of a local regional player, of infrastructure-oriented player. So we are on dark fiber and the data centers. And I would say maybe 3 words: consolidation, specialization, and efficiency. What I mean with this, so we just discussed the markets in Europe are inefficient because they are fragmented. So consolidation will happen independently of the political issues. It just happened in Spain with the MásMóvil and Orange merger just happened now. Portugal is a very small country, so something similar should be happening here soon. But I also think that it is important that not only we need to consolidate to gain scale, but also to specialize in the sense that, for instance, a player like us is specialized in infrastructure, so we should do that, while telcos and other players should play higher in the service level, for instance. Of course, this would allow us also to be more efficient, which is something that we have to do. We talked about automation, even for infrastructure. Yes, we have to be more efficient. And we are also looking for opportunities ourselves for consolidation, looking at M&A opportunities in data centers and in fiber with a regional perspective. Let's say you were asking about, it's just for the time being Iberia, but Iberia is an ecosystem by itself. And I wouldn't say it's like African markets, but there is still a lot of room for development. So we believe in the Iberian ecosystem.
Thank you. And with those hopeful words, I would like to thank you all the guys for being with us and sharing with you. But if there's still a question, and I think by heart there will be a question from Nadia coming. Nadia, please wait for the microphone for you to come and then ask your question, please.
Yes, thank you. Very interesting. The insights that were shared. Thank you very much to the panel. Regarding infrastructure and hyperscalers and the investments that they have been making, I have a question, and I will address it to all the members of the panel. Please feel free to share your insights. And addressing what Rui was saying, do you really believe that hyperscalers? So yes, I will say that they are currently. Probably they would be considered significant market. They would have been considered as having significant market power if they were included in the relevant markets. So physical infrastructure, for example, or submarine cables if we had that market redefined. But couldn't we see in there a market opportunity for all stakeholders that are in the ecosystem? Because hyperscalers are investing in infrastructure mainly because they wanted to reduce costs, and they are investing in order to feed their own internal needs. So there's space in their infrastructure for other players to also buy capacity from, and this would also potentialize connectivity across the globe. So are we afraid of interacting more with hyperscalers and doing more business with hyperscalers in order to benefit from their infrastructure? Shouldn't we be looking at this from this perspective?
I can share my view on that one.
You have all the attention now from all the guys.
Yes.
I want to answer. There you go.
The hyperscalers have grown tremendously, and most of the traffic in their networks, it's internal traffic, which is curious. It's not just us downloading a video, it's their artificial intelligence algorithms talking about us, right? So they really need these infrastructures, and they need scalability. And the reason why they built their own data centers and their own submarine cables, it's because us, and I talk as also someone who worked in telecoms for a long time, we're not able to give them this scalability, this efficiency, right? So, but I think I talked about specialization. So what these guys did is they integrated vertically all these things because they had no answer from the market. But I think there is still the opportunity to show them that, and I talk here from the perspective of an infrastructure provider, that we can be a solution for them, and that they don't have to care about necessarily about all the layers in the value chain, and that other players can play an important role. But we have to improve and to become much better providers, I would say.
Luis?
If I may add, I think they can bring some positive things. I can give you one example in Ghana, whereby it's actually that we have delivery of customers' requirements in Accra, and the cost of a local line, the local tail, is way much more than what you need to go from Ghana right up to Europe or whatever. Google came along, and Google went around and did the rounds of all the internet service providers in Ghana, and they got around and they made themselves a club, and the prices went like this overnight. So Ghana Telecom sitting it high up, almighty, and one day, and then they had to obviously, drop down their pricing too. So there are positive things happening, but perhaps on the hyper side of things, then things are much more complicated. But I think also the fact that, take case of to Africa, I know it's a consortium built. There's several telcos within that consortium. I would like to say that I hope that they have the freedom and flexibility to sell their capacity that they have on that fiber, because I'm sure that the big guys who own, well, the the dominant weight on that fiber will monopolize some things. That's my perspective, by the way.
Thank you. Okay. Satisfied with the answers. Another question.
Rui, we have the same name. Just let me share with you and a crazy idea. Why, for example, today after 50 years of the 25 April, we talk in interior of the country. So we have a lot interior of the country. So for me, in the borders, for example, in Trás-os-Montes, in Covilhã, whatever. So why you don't? It's a crazy idea. Why you do not use your tower power supply transport to put fiber cables to improve better some regions, to create capacities and conditions to the new companies, to the new digital companies? It's a crazy idea, but let's see what you think. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed, it's a great idea. And in a way, we are already doing that, making the optical fibers on the electrical grid and the gas grid, by the way, available to the market. So it's a open, neutral offering. It's already there in the market. Okay, that's as much as I can say. Okay, thank you.
All right. So with that, I would like to thank my panel dearly for being here and sharing the knowledge. I would like to thank you, audience, for being here as well. In half an hour, roughly, the last panel session will take place. Moderated not by me, but by Aki. So please be there and have a look. And with this, thank you so much. See you up to next time, right? Okay.